you know, we're talking with a lot of companies who still have a lot of on-prem software, and they're starting to evaluate, is cloud where we want to go? Is it a move that we make? How do we, you know, what are some of the pros and cons of making that transition from on-prem to cloud?
I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For us, it's really a matter of personnel. So the company that owns IEC is called DCA, and we have 3 total companies that we manage. And so I have 4 people that manage 350 devices. You know, we've got probably 250 users and 350 devices that we have to be able to provide service for. So that means that I need to get them out of the hardware business. So every application that we've ever bought, like the WP, which is our CRM package, to manage, which is our asset management, everything has to be in the cloud, because the last thing I want to do is stand up another server that one of my guys is going to have to monitor. Now, I know that I've you know, watching the lights flash and everything else on a server is really pretty, but the reality is I don't have time to manage it. We are expanding every day. The last thing I need to do is hire somebody else and try and bring them up to speed to handle help desk. And so I've got, with limited resources, I need to find ways of providing solutions to every user and to all these companies without having to increase the manpower of IT. And so for me, having a cloud solution was the way to do it. So everything that we have purchased up until this point, up until we upgrade our ERP system, has been in a cloud. And then the other option is to do an off-prem server. So you rent a space, or you rent space on a virtual server. I just want to get out of the hardware business. It's not even the cost of the utilities that I'm looking at, so much as it is a lot of technology to stay on top of. You know, do you go with HP, IBM, Dell servers? What do you want to go with? Well, then you got to hire somebody that really knows that. You know, so however much I can get into the cloud, I absolutely go for.
I got some stuff to say on it, but you go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, okay, the cloud is a great thing. Look, if we were to start off and we were brand new, there's a lot of things I would do differently, but for me, I have to look at the economics of it. Obviously, it is a challenge to get IT people, more so now than ever, but you know, when it comes down to the economics of it, and you look at things, for example, Exchange, you know, I'm always looking at the evaluation cloud versus on-prem. And when I can do a virtualized server and put Exchange on it and leave it spinning for 5 to 6 years versus paying so much monthly for almost 2,000 employees, it doesn't take much rocket science to do the math. If you've got the talent, if you've got the technicians and the people in-house, sometimes, depending on the size, depending on the dollars, you're as well doing it in-house versus doing cloud. We do cloud, but I will say a majority of our stuff is on-prem. We have our own internal cloud set up. Obviously, even Microsoft has tools to do that, so it's, you know, it is something that we do more in-house than out. But we do evaluate it, and I always look it down to the bottom line, and that's anybody looking at it. I wouldn't just assume, just because that's the trend, that it makes sense. You have to look at your company and you look at the dollars and the people, what do they need, and what all they're going to be doing. Our company and the culture and the way we do things for our users is a little bit different than other companies do. In our case, Exchange is still in-house. So.
I'm glad you brought up Exchange. I got a great story from my situation I went through, and it helped me about, you was talking about office, moving to office in the cloud, and when the whole cloud stuff first came out, my first impression was, golly, us IT people are so dumb, we're just writing our own doom. You know, you hire me to manage this infrastructure, now all I'm doing is taking it out of here, right? And I wasn't a big fan, but we had a mail server that I loved to manage, and it was a Linux-based system. It's called Zimbra. You may have heard of it, and it gave us all the features of an Exchange server, right? And plus, I was always proud because it was running on Linux. You know, Linux is rock solid in security. And what happened around? I'm losing track of time, but you remember the Heartbleed and all the SSL vulnerabilities and stuff that came out, and Linux had a really bad vulnerability during that time, and I'm sitting here with, golly, all these vulnerabilities, and I got this server, it's probably arguably the most critical application we have next to our ERP system is our mail server, and I'm constantly patching and changing and just spending so much time managing this thing. And the company needs me to help, drive the company's vision, and I'm constantly working on this thing. And it made more sense for Womack Electric, and I started evaluating cloud-based services such as Google and Microsoft, and I also evaluated moving to another application like Exchange on-prem. But for us, it made so much more sense for me to move us to the cloud. And it's been one of the cloud applications that I've, so happy that we did, because now managing email for me is a whole lot easier than it was before. I got to a point where I needed the expertise, and I was not that expertise anymore, because it's constantly changing, constant vulnerabilities, constant patching, and it's a lot. If you have the expertise, I'm in agreement with Phil. You do a lot of that stuff in-house, but if you don't, then you really need to consider, some of the cloud options out there.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is it's not a one-size-fits-all. You still have to take into account. So, you often hear about the technologies and the other tools that are becoming available, and everyone seems to want to jump on the bandwagon. Again, I think you have to sit back and reflect and look at your people, your processes. Right. Go ahead, Della.
Well, and one of the things too is keep in mind we're all speaking from past experience. So in a previous life, we had, and I'm not 100% sure why, because I came in midstream on the whole Exchange process at this company, but they had 3 Exchange servers, which I'm not sure why. They were all mega dollars, and when one would go down, for some reason, the other 2 would never work. So it was a 3-year project that failed miserably. So at DCA, we're a Google house. So we have Gmail. And it actually works really, really well because we don't have a huge number of users at this point in time. So for our size, this works great. At my previous company, there were too many users, and they wanted Exchange. They liked Microsoft. We want this. And it failed. And so what I do is based on that experience, I am headed in the other direction because that has scarred me for life, I'll tell you.
Very good. And you made a comment, Robert, which I think leads in very nicely to the next topic, is I won't get it exactly right, but you talked about what you were doing and some of the things that you were doing that you could outsource to others so that you could really focus on the company's vision. What I think is interesting about that statement is the word company, because I think oftentimes when we think about IT, we think of them focused on the infrastructure piece. How do you feel the role of the CIO in your IT department is changing?
Well, we're becoming much more of a sales driver for our company. I'm going on sales calls multiple times a week now, and it can be from everything from just doing a little bit of general consulting for a customer. I did that last week. They just had an application they were evaluating, and they asked me to come out there and look at it and see if it would work with us and being able to, basically a new estimating software package they were looking at. And they came to us to get our opinion on it. To literally going on the job site and seeing the struggles that the customers having and seeing what kind of IT solutions Womack can bring them. Most of our big accounts that we deal with, I'm going along with their sales manager and sitting in on the meetings. I'm not there to sell something. I'm there to hear what the problem is and what issues they're having, and whatever the case may be. That's how I see it changing a lot.
I think it's really interesting because I'm pretty certain that even 10 years ago, we would never think about having our IT people interfacing with our, with our customers. I got choked up over that, goodness. So I do think that the role is changing. So how does that change your hiring practices and what you're looking for and maybe restructuring your IT department?
Well, one thing that we're doing is starting to put some of our IT people through a sales process. One of my IT guys is going through the same sales training that our sales people go through. Because I want him to be able, I can't go out there and see all these customers now. I need help, and you know, he's going out there and making some of these sales calls with our salespeople as well. So, a lot of times IT people are introverts. I actually consider myself to be somewhat of an introvert. But you gotta be a more open and more willing, and you gotta have that sales background. And I also think it's important for IT people to have a sales background when you're going to sell these technologies that you want to bring into your company to your company's owners and stakeholders. That's important. You gotta understand how to sell the product that you want to bring into your environment, and effectively communicate that to the stakeholders. And time I hear it, how in the heck did you get your company paid for that? I said, well, you got to make it relevant. You got to be able to sell it. And you know, I guess I consider myself lucky. I've had a lot of training on that. So, but that's a big change that I think, and I know that's going on over there at Elliott Electric as well.
Mm-hmm.
For us, you know, of course, it's been more than 10 years working with customers and employees for me, but we've been doing this for a while, and I think I was just lucky enough to have owners that were technology driven since I started, I guess. So for us, you know, we're always, you know, trying to spend time with users and customers. For example, every Monday we have meetings, then I spend time with the marketing, payables, inventory control, HR, payroll, as well as once a quarter, every quarter, I meet with the store managers. We always talk about projects, what's working, what's not. And during the week, like I say, you know, I'm flying various places to meet with customers. And then at the NAD regionals and nationals, we're meeting with vendors, talking about what's working, what's not. And it's always great to go into an NAD meeting when you've got a vendor sitting there and looking at your website, and you can talk about why the data is not where it's supposed to be, you know, and it's in talking about metrics, you know, why does it take, you know, 3 shipments to get the shipment correct, and what are the damages, and what can we do with the software, and you know, this great thing of connecting the manufacturer system, the distributor system, all the way down to the contractor system. And we've been talking about this for at least 20 years, and finally we're starting to get some, you know, foundation and progress on that. And so, yeah, but for me, it's, you know, the selling part's easy, because if I can work with a, say, for example, marketing person, and they want to do TVs in the stores or whatever, well, if I can show them and do a case and show them a solution, well, they're doing the selling for me, because they're the ones that are going to be going to the owner. I'm just providing the solution for them. And for me, I see it's a good idea, because they're the one that's going to get the kudos for it, or the attaboy or whatever, and I'm just implementing it. And for me, it's a kind of a partnership for the other departments. Warehouses the same way. It's always great if a warehouse guy comes up with the idea. I'm just there because they're going to be bought into the situation. If we talk about voice and they go, oh yeah, this is going to be great, then the buy-in's there from the start. They're going to want that thing to be successful. Now, it may have some issues, but they're going to be buying, whereas versus coming in there and say, here's some new wands, and y'all are going to use them, and life's going to be great, and that's not always the case. So I approach it a little bit differently to start with the people that are going to be using the technology, and from there we look at it obviously from an ROI standpoint. As far as the hiring side, absolutely that's changed. You know, we have more the B2B and B2C. We've got 2 people that deal with just customers, whether it's internet orders, you know, anywhere from Brazil to wherever, and also from day-to-day customers. We may call oil and gas companies to verify things are working correctly, and then where we're providing on-site inventory solutions, we call the customer as well as the salespeople to make sure it's working correctly. To have the technology and inventory sitting in a container somewhere, well, that all sounds neat, but we all know it doesn't work unless you got people actually using it. So I have to make sure that we have people every week contacting those customers. Hey, how's that wand working? Oh, the Wi-Fi's got a problem, or maybe it's the 3G signal and we need to get a booster or whatever. We constantly evaluate and work with the customers, and as soon as we find that there's a problem, we can address it. So, and then once you do that, you got more buy-in from the customer, because now they know you care. You're not just an IT guy somewhere that's just throwing something at you and turn around and haul butt. That's at least that's the way I look at it. So it does take more talent to do that.
Well, we're on the opposite end. So when I joined the company, there were not only 4 walls and a door and a ceiling, they were brick and cement, and their IT never stepped outside of that office. And so they didn't speak to people. They handled things, only when they absolutely had to. It was tough. So it has been a culture change. And so as I am changing the culture, as I'm hiring based upon a culture now. So instead of looking for somebody who has this certification, I am looking for somebody who walks into that interview and can speak and has no problem talking, bringing technology down to an everyday level, but somebody who fits into my culture. So I am transforming how IT works, and I am bringing down the walls and getting IT involved with the companies at a level where they've never done before. And so I have a challenge in one person that's been there for 35 years, who knows everything there is to know about that network, but who does not and will not learn a business process. Or at least I didn't think he would learn a business process. Let's put it that way. So then I have another operator or another employee that has been there for 13 years, who has just been chomping at the bit to get out of the office. He doesn't want to be in the 4 walls. And so I sent him out to a branch. All of a sudden, things changed. Things started to really move fast. So as soon as he started learning more about what this company, one of the companies does, all of a sudden business processes were changing. We were changing flags within the ERP system. There was some real advancements made. And then lo and behold, the person that had been there for 35 years has started to roll that direction. So he's like that boulder that doesn't want to move. The water goes around him. The water is starting to push him along too. So now he is starting to move. The culture that started out with a very closed door and cement walls is all of a sudden now starting to really open up. So it's at that end. So I'm really, I'm at the very beginning stages. Ultimately, what will happen is sales calls, customer sites. We've got tool cribs that we've got to get out to. I'm sending IT guys out. So it's a slow process, but we're getting there.
Excellent. And it kind of brings up another point. So as we're talking about the changing role of IT and having that more interaction with the customers and kind of the salesperson, right? It becomes a part of who you are and what you need to do for your company. So I would imagine that on the sales side of things, that you also are maybe experiencing some challenges and some changing roles in terms of what your typical salesperson was doing, and how is technology changing their role in their position?
Absolutely. Yeah. For us, since we're very large with contractors, the interaction with the oil and gas and industrial side, it's easier. Obviously we're connected in with the Arivas and the Oildexes and the ADPs, and I keep going with the automate because they all want to automate payable side, which is a piece of cake. When you get into the contractors, it's all about services, and that's where we think we excel. Especially, it doesn't matter whether it's Amazon or anybody, it all comes down to the service side and the user experience, customer experience in this case. So for us, we have to think of ways when we talk to customers, you really have to listen to them, whether it's a back office situation where you have a person that's trying to understand your invoice, to somebody at a job site that just wants to know when to have the electricians there and not be paying them very large salaries waiting for your truck to show up. So it's, you know, so that's where it comes in. The meetings, understanding what the challenges are with our salesperson as well as the customer. If it's pricing, it's interfacing with their contractor packages, which obviously there's a lot of easy ways to do that. And then if it's the integration point, dealing with, you know, their time and material, the bidding process, there's a lot of opportunities there. The one cloud tool that we are working with is the project management, doing submittals. You know, the communication with the contractor so they know where they are in the job. They can pull it up. They can run their own recaps, or they can even set it and it'll schedule it and send it to them. So there's opportunities for us. The big one is just communication. You know, we still have a lot of contractors that still like to beat in their own orders or, you know, rely on salespeople, which is fine. We support that as well as they want to use the mobile app and the website. But when it comes down to it, it's the service. So, for example, if we can show them why we can save them money just on little things for putting the pulling heads on for them, and they don't have to do it in the field. I mean, that's not e-commerce, but it is something that we do as a service. The labeling obviously helps. You'd be surprised how much just a label on a reel showing them what floor it goes on, what panel it's for, and you know, and what the purpose of it is. And that way they don't try to pull a 300 foot into a conduit that's 400 feet. Because obviously that's happened to us a few times. But anyway, so there's when you talk with the contractors, it's just amazing the amount that you can do for them. Obviously, they have limited money as well, so we're able to extend our IT resources even into those accounts.
And,
So that's just one.
okay, go ahead.
Don't be afraid to charge for those services.
Oh, well, absolutely.
I mean, but time and time again, I feel like, well, you know,
Oh, we don't give anything away.
think about all the value add and stuff that we do as an organization that everybody does, right? And we don't charge for this stuff. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to my point is, you know, a lot of these things your competitors aren't doing, and you know, it's all about making money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you know, no, everybody does kitting and all these other, you know, normal warehouse and delivery type things that we don't ever charge for. But you can typically, you know, we can do it better and cheaper than what they could have done going out and finding somebody and hiring them to do